Yeah, let's get. What's the name of this podcast?
Just SolidYouth podcast
Huh,
episode.
Solid Youth. Yeah.
Solid
Yeah, it's your boy.
More.
We're, we're premiering. That's what this is.
It's the first one, so that's pretty exciting.
Dude, my feet probably look massive in the shot.
Probably.
We're here in my home here in Southern California. Tennessee. Yeah, Southern California would be great. I bet you would. Shout out, California.
Yeah.
All right, man. Sorry.
No worries. I like a nice relaxed feel of podcasts and stuff. But so something I was kind of thinking about. We were talking a little bit before the podcast about being real and how that affects our lives and how it affects our relationships with other people and all that. And I was trying to think what would be the best way to put it in words that, because like if you just say, oh, be real, people are kind of like, well, I am being real, but I'm trying to figure out, because I feel like it means so much more than that. Like, even though it's a very simple like concept of like be real and stuff, I like that's kind of cool. But I feel like it's more like complex than just being like, hey, be real. Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm being real. I'm true to myself, true to whatever and stuff. But I think what would be a way that you would phrase that, saying like be real. Like if you're talking to someone, tell them to be real and be honest and stuff. Like, do you have a way that you would put that, or?
I think it's different for everyone because like what's real for you is not going to be the same for me. Like I don't mind. I'm like my tendency is to be an oversharer sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't mind talking about anything.
Right.
So that's easy for me. So maybe my real moment is a conversation about Matt. You talk a lot, but you don't do. You don't follow up.
Mm.
Maybe that's like a vulnerable moment for me to realize that, I'm a talker but not a doer. So like I need to focus more on follow up. What are the things that I've committed to doing and I haven't done? So it's just different, and then maybe it's like different for you. Like I don't know what real is for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think real for me, I guess, would be just very honest with people. Trying to be very honest with people. I kind of consider honesty as one of like the key factors in being real. Obviously, I think it's kind of, I guess that kind of makes sense when it goes with being real. But as far as like something that would, for me, being real is, I would agree. I talk a lot too, and I don't do as much as I say. I might do or will do. And so I think that that's something where being real with even my own expectations of myself and other people in those relationships with other people, because like there's been times where like I've had friendships that I wasn't being very real with, and some people were like, oh, do this, let's do this, and I'm trying to do this with these people and stuff, but I'm not necessarily like actually there. I don't actually care to do it so much, but I'll talk as if I do. And I think that's something I've been kind of noticing even in my own life with different things I'm going through, of like, you have to also sit down and be real with yourself to say like, okay, do I actually want this, or am I just saying I want this? Well, I mean, it could be change, kind of whatever.
Like personal growth.
Yeah, like personal growth. Like, yeah, are you like, do you actually want personal growth, or are you just kind of talking the talk and just be like, yeah, oh yeah, I want to do this when you're around other people, but then when you're all by yourself, are you just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I don't, like, do your actions prove otherwise, kind of thing, I guess. Yeah.
What's a key? What's a key to like bringing about action? Like, what's maybe like, you know what I mean? Because like I'm thinking the same things for me right now. Is who cares what I say if I don't do?
Yeah.
But then also like communication is super important too. I don't like having raw, honest talks with people are not a waste. Like connection is
Oh
so
yeah.
vital for me.
Oh yeah. I
So it's not like I want to stop communicating, and sometimes we do overpromise, and maybe that's part of it. I don't want to feel shame about that, but I also want to ask the right questions too. I don't want to just walk away. Isn't there like a verse about that? The guy that repents, um, and actually the son that repented and actually went and did the thing for his father was actually better than. So he first like mouths off at his dad.
right. Oh
I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
parable that Jesus
Yeah.
tells. He
Yeah.
mouths off at his dad, but then in the end he repents and goes and helps and works.
Yeah.
And then the son's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'll do it," but then doesn't do
Doesn't.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
And I think because Jesus asked, he's like, which one's either which one's better or like which one, do you think
so
did it stuff?
that dude, that guy, like that son is more real,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
than the son who talked a good game but didn't do.
Right.
And that goes for like our Christian life, I think.
Yeah.
Like if I talk a big game, like I could go up and have a sermon, or I could lead worship.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not being real about my personal life, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like walking on willy nilly, and I know
Right.
like you're working on stuff in your life and I'm working on stuff in my life too, and
Yeah.
and we're like no thing is too small,
Yeah.
because I know these like great preachers that they spent their whole life doing these great grand ministries, but then in their personal life they had issues. Maybe they're yelling at their kids, or they're angry, or they're snapping at people,
Yeah.
and like they never deal with it because that's just a little thing.
Right. Mm.
That would be like an example to me of somebody that doesn't. They talk but they don't do.
Yeah. Because the little things do add up. Like the little things add up a lot, and they're really important. As much as we might think at times they're not, or it might be like, in our heads we can kind of talk it down and be like,
Yeah.
oh, I only do that every other week. I only get mad at my kids once every other week,
Right.
or stuff like that. Where
And
like
that's their whole life. Like that
right.
impacts their entire
Yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah. It impacts not just the kids, but I mean your life too, as
Yeah.
the parent. Mouthing off to your
Yeah.
kids, being like, whatever,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's where the little things do really matter a lot, which I think is kind of as like a recurring theme is a lot of what Jesus taught. It wasn't like, oh yeah, go sacrifice this the first blood of animal, whatever, and then you're fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was like the big thing, like sacrifice for the sins you made, and like they would do that once a year or whatever it was for each time that they had all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like compared to when Jesus was actually preaching more, he was like, no, it's your heart. He's like, it's not. He's like, yeah, out of the heart is what flows your actions, and
Mm-hmm.
what flows what you say and what you do. And he's like, that's the thing that is really like that's like the actual thing that matters the most is your heart and where that's at with yourself, with others, with God. Because I mean, if your heart's in a good place with God, then I believe you'll be in a good place with others. It doesn't mean you won't always have conflict with others, because some people won't like what you're doing or whatever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't also mean that like you won't. It's not like a promise of success when your heart's in the right place with God, but that's gonna be the most important thing is when your heart's in the right place, when your heart is in the right place with God and is connected deeper that way through your walk, through the things you do in life, and then also understanding where you're at in life too. Because
Yeah.
I think, at least I know for me, there's been so many times that it's so easy to just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this thing, and it's like, okay, cool, you're not even at that place in life yet. Like, calm down, relax. And I get ahead of myself.
Oh yeah.
And stuff where I feel like I'm a lot older than I actually
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
I'm not old. I'm
Yeah.
not even that old and stuff. But like, I feel like
Yeah, but if you would just like focus on the little thing, being like, there's that concept of secretly awesome. Like, focus on what about the little things that you haven't grown in the last bit, that you haven't been focusing on because you're dreaming about the big things.
yeah,
Like for me, that is like, I am a big visionary. So like even in my business, like I find myself doing things that are wasteful because they're sexy or they're big or they're
yeah,
visionary style, and like, but the granular things need to be done first, and they are actually what sum up the total of the big things.
yeah, yeah. but
And so but like having an appetite for those things, then like you can actually curate, I think, an appetite for little things if you in your heart decide they're important.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
but it does definitely involve, like what you just said, deciding in your heart that it's important.
But other people will try to tell you that like other people have a view that they're not. So that exposes like our hearts of like trying to impress people.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like so much of my life has been trying to buy people's love and connection
Mm-hmm.
instead of just showing up and say I deserve the love and connection that I'm here to give. That's what deserve. Like a lot of people have a hard time
Mm.
saying that. I
Yeah.
deserve love and connection.
Huh.
And like think about what deserve even means. Like what does the term deserve mean? If I give you something, don't I
Mm-hmm.
deserve that back? That's fair, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if I give you an apple
Mm-hmm.
and I said, Nate, I would love if you sometime gave me an apple back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to give me an apple,
Right.
but I would say that I've earned an apple.
Right.
So if I show up and I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm a good friend to you, or
Mm-hmm.
you're a good friend to me, you deserve for me to be a good friend. Maybe I don't have the space today, but tomorrow, you deserve for
Right.
me to be a good friend to you. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times we don't like show up like that. We think we never deserve it, even though we've been giving love and connection for 10 years. And we show up in relationships. Here's like the biggest thing I think is in the whole thing of back to the thing of being real
Mm-hmm.
is you have to be real with yourself about like interactions that you're having.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we spend 90% of our energy on people that spend 1% of their energy back on us.
Mm.
And so it's like this uneven thing.
Yeah.
So maybe like I spend a ton of energy on you
Mm-hmm.
and then you go spend a ton of energy on somebody else,
Right.
but you don't spend that back on me.
Right.
So we're not really friends. You take the energy that you get from me and you go spend it on somebody else because at the end of the day we're like overlapping circles that don't overlap in a genuine way. So that's the thing of being real. So
Mm-hmm.
you you like the feeling of helping this other person more than you like the feeling of connection with me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's like codependency kicking in.
Yeah.
So you get a bigger high from helping some poor person that needs you
Right.
than helping me back once I helped you.
Right. Huh. Yeah. Or help. Yeah. Yeah. Someone who still needs help, but you're instead you go to the person that like you look at and you say, oh, this person definitely needs my help, and it's
Yeah.
kind of that idea of like, which we've talked about this multiple times before, the idea of like wanting to be a superhero
Yeah.
for someone else.
Yeah, but
And
it's an addiction to ourself.
precisely,
It's
but
not giving.
yeah, because you can't be a superhero in anyone else's life. Like
You're not Jesus.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not Jesus. It'll never work. You always fall short at some point, and I think that's
It ends in resentment.
yeah.
Oh, why don't they appreciate me? Because they took what they got from you and went and gave it to somebody else.
Yep.
They didn't reciprocate.
Yeah. Well.
But like that doesn't mean we shouldn't help people.
Right.
With like physical gain, I'm more talking about like emotional currency.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like your emotional presence.
Yeah, and I think there could be a difference too, depending on. I wouldn't say there's an age gap on it or anything like that, but I think that there would be a difference also with having, depending on who you're with. So like for example, like if I was trying to help someone out in life, and I kind of felt like, hey, I need to make sure I help them out in life, regardless of them giving anything back. Like, because sometimes they might not even care. They might not even be in a place to care to give anything back.
Mhm.
And I mean, parents and kids could do this all the time. Where like kids, for a long time when they're young, they can't give anything back. Like they don't feel like they can give anything back because they're just so young, so small, and all they've been told their whole life is do what I say.
And they
Do this,
shouldn't
do
have
that, do
to.
this. Yeah, and
They're
shouldn't have
kids.
to. Yeah, they're kids. Yeah, and so I think that's something that like, and then as they get older, they start to appreciate that more, and not always. Sometimes they go. I mean, I went through a whole stage where I could care less, and I was like, whatever, I'm do my own thing
Yeah.
and stuff. But I think that, I think that definitely, as you get older, you can look back on it more and be like, I appreciate it not because like parents are like, oh, we do all this stuff for you, so you need to do stuff for us, kind of thing. But it's like, because that's just the idea of like wanting something like from kids
Do
that
you see
can't
that?
give anything back.
Do you see that? Like
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen
like
it
what
and
do you
stuff.
that does that make you I mean, how do you feel about that?
That it probably angers me probably more now and stuff, but it
Just that
also,
attitude.
yeah, but it also is like it almost saddens. It kind of, it makes me pretty sad too, thinking about it, because like, as much as like you can look at it and like, I don't know, because for me, okay, so for me, like, in my own life, I can see at times where like your parents do a lot of stuff for you, and in my head I'm like, that's their job. They're the ones having you. And I'm not saying this is the way as you should not, not love your parents and not respect your parents or anything like that. But at the same time, at a certain age, like when you're young, there's nothing you can do. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't bring any value
Right.
to necessarily their life.
Right.
At least in their own heads, you can't really bring
Right.
value in their life, because you look at their kid. What do they know?
Right.
But at the same time, like they can bring a lot of value in life just by loving you and by
Right.
being there with you and stuff, whether or not they understand anything you're going through or anything like
Yeah.
that. Because like, I think that's something that I'm trying to even learn more. That like, if I'm around a little kid and like, okay, so I have a nephew
Mm-hmm.
who's out here with me and stuff. I mean, with his parents too, obviously.
Shout out. What's his name?
Yeah, Louis.
Shout out Louis.
But that's kind of thing is where like he's a baby. He can't do anything.
Right.
He can't do anything. Like everything, he can't walk. He's trying to talk, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know anything. Like he's just like. But at the same time, he's so precious, and there's so much he can.
Like you would do anything for.
I'd do anything for him. So, yeah. But at the same time, like, and another thing is, I'm not expecting anything in return, regardless.
Yeah.
Because
right, he's a bad investment.
Yeah, it would be like a bad investment or whatever. Yeah. Which is really hard to say. It sounds really wrong because.
Yeah, but see, the world is like that's the thing is we live as Christians. Our world is non-material.
Yeah.
Our world is eternal and spiritual, and so this idea that I gave you so much, so you should completely just overlook any of my faults because look how good you had it.
Yeah.
To me, like I'm so thankful for my parents. They were the best. Mm-hmm. Probably, literally, if you compared them against other parents, they probably were. Yeah. They're probably some of the best parents in the world. Mm-hmm. But like the idea that they don't have faults and that I should overlook their faults because they were great parents is just ridiculous. You don't have that. That's like not true in any other relationship.
Yeah.
Because like they didn't do me favors growing up. They were good parents. That's not something that I need to pay them back. See what I'm saying? With like ignoring their faults. Because there's an ongoing relationship that I want to have with them, which is reciprocal. Like, hey, if you hurt me, if I hurt you, I want you to let me know. Like, let's talk about it. Yeah. And I want to be a safe person for my parents too, in the sense of when I've hurt them and I know that I have, I want them to be able to process that with me. I want to be safe enough for that. And like safety goes both ways. Yeah. And I think I don't know how we got onto this subject, but yeah, I mean these are real conversations right here, for sure. Yeah. And forgiveness. Oh, we were going to talk about forgiveness. Like forgiveness is a messy process. It's not like overlooking faults. It's engaging the conflict to the point that you can, and then like pull back if you can't. Like if somebody's disrespecting me, doesn't want to hear me, or they're shutting me down, they're dismissing my side of the story, then that's a signal that you'd better stop conversing for a time, and maybe you come back to that. Yeah. And maybe, like, I think something is very valuable in relationships, not just maybe for parents, but like it's very valuable to have really strong boundaries and be able to say, I know that boundaries word is way overused. Yeah. But just saying, hey, can we not talk about this for right now? And then, like, if there comes a time when you feel like you want to hear me out, right, then I would love to talk about this again, but you're not listening to me, so let's give it a break for now. We're just going in circles. Yeah. And those are real. Those kinds of conversations are real. That's like being real. Because you're treating yourself as if you're an equal, even if they don't feel like you're an equal. Because internally, like, let's say this is just a friend, not talking about parents, but like you have a friend, back to that, like maybe one friend is draining too much from you, right, and never gives back. Be like, bro, this is how I see you. This is how I feel. You never, whatever it is. You always carpool with me and I drive. You always borrow this from me. Whatever it is. It's like there's all these symbols that you are, this is not a reciprocal relationship. Why does it feel that way to me? Ah, you're being, you're just making things up. You're being sensitive again,
Mm-hmm.
which is just
Right.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
So I can bully you and just call you sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something too where like with like parental relationships, sometimes it can get to a place where because they feel like they've invested so much into you as a kid growing up, and they don't feel like and they feel like there should be return on that investment.
Mm-hmm.
When that I don't know, I don't know if I can say this for a fact, but I don't see it much being of return on investment. I don't think in like children, like relationships, the only thing you should hope to get out of raising kids is that friendship with those kids.
Yeah.
Regardless of anything you do for them.
Right.
Whether you pour all your blood, sweat, and tears into their lives and raise them and all that stuff, which is what you should do. I mean, I think as parents, you are called to sacrifice a lot for your kids to show them love and to be, showing that relationship, kind of trying to mirror that relationship with our Father to us. And I think it's so easy for parents, whether in the secular world or whether in Christian circles or whatever, to just have that idea and I guess want um, like that return on investment where they're like, well, I've invested so much into you, why aren't you doing anything for me? Like, why aren't, all this stuff? And it's like,
You should be thankful.
yeah. And instead of being like, hey, look, I got to raise people, and all I want is that friendship. And if that's not your focus, is that friendship? Because if your focus isn't friendship, that's where you get to the point where you've got overbearing parents pushing you around when you're almost 18. Getting ready to try to move out, or you're trying to do all this stuff, or you're 17, or and you're trying to figure out what life might look like when by the time you're an adult and all that stuff, and like your parents aren't really helping you.
They're trying to control you, or trying to
control you because you're still my kid. If you want to do this stuff, you can do it when you're 18 and you move out on your own. Yeah. It's like cool. Well, then the kids can look at the kids and go, okay, fine.
Can't wait.
Then I can't wait. Turns 18, gone out the house, done.
Right.
And it's like, well, what's the point of that? Like you not necessarily doesn't always mean you've wrecked a friendship.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, family's what's most important, but really it's the friendships.
Yeah.
That's what's most important, regardless if it's your family or not your family. Family is what you have and is the best place to create friendships.
Yeah.
And the best place to mirror what a marriage relationship could ever look like, because you're stuck with those people for a long time at least until you're 18.
Yeah.
And so if you can figure it out how to live with someone for 18 years, and you do it well, doesn't mean you'll have a perfect marriage, but it'll probably be a lot better than a lot of other marriages.
Yeah.
You're like, if you're just too busy.
Yeah, and
I don't like you if you're trying to control me. And if you only ever consider relationships as someone else trying to control you, it's like, well, what's the point of that relationship?
Right. I mean, I think it goes both ways. Like, a kid should be, and maybe it takes a while. Maybe an 18-year-old won't be thinking this way, but I know I think about it this way. Like, my parents are going to probably die before I do. When they're dead, like, I'll have no more time with them. It kind of goes both ways. Like, all I want is a relation. I don't want perfect parents. I just want a relationship with them. I don't want a fake relationship where they're trying to pretend to be perfect and ignoring how they've harmed me. But at the same time, I know that we're not going to see eye to eye, and I'd rather just have friends. I'd rather have my parents be my friends, and it won't be perfect. So it goes both ways. Internally, maybe, I'm going to be like, yeah, you messed up a lot. But when I actually show up, though, I'm going to be like, hey, Pop could die tomorrow. Mom could die tomorrow. What would today look like if I knew that? Yeah. And I think the same should go for them. Listen, my kid is not perfect. I'd change a lot if I could. He doesn't know how messed up he is. He doesn't know what a jerk he is to me. Right. But if he died tomorrow, what would I do with him today? This little 18-year-old brat. Yeah. How would I treat him? How would I wish I had treated him? And I think that's like an eternal Christian perspective, really, on relationships sometimes. It sounds so simple. Yeah. But it also, like, it doesn't mean that you ignore the wrong. But sometimes you just, this is back to being real and also, like, the quietly awesome thing. Internally, I'm, like, very strong. Internally, you could berate me right now. And internally, I'm not even going to consider the fact consider what you say is true if you're being disrespectful of who I am as a child of God.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I have a very strong internal compass of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want that for you too, and I would want that for my kids. So like, if I that's something that I think is a parent's job, is to help their child believe in themselves to the point where even if a parent does mess up, it doesn't hurt them as much because they know dad messed up, they know mom messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
they're robust. There's an internal sort of, well, f you.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is a family podcast, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, there's like this internal
Right.
strength,
Yeah.
a defense. Like, I can forgive you because you actually, like, I know there's a very strong internal, secretly quiet strength in me.
Yeah.
Like a courage, a robustness.
Yeah. And then having friends around you, whether it's your parents, your siblings, or whoever, to help build that the internal
Yeah. Like,
your internal compass,
yeah.
pulling you to who you are in Christ, not who you are in the world by what you do
Yeah.
and all this stuff. Because things can come and go. You could be some great, awesome person.
Yeah. And of the millions of people that will listen to this, I want to say, if you're a parent too, the same goes for you. Like, if your child is accusing you, they're holding you to too high of a standard, which I probably have held my parents to too high of a standard sometimes too. Like, try to draw back on that internal realization that I am faulty. I did mess my kid up. I did fail them. I tried, but I didn't succeed always. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I will seek forgiveness from my child. I will admit where I hurt them, even if I don't see it, even if I don't understand how it happened. I will repent for what I did. Obviously, I did something. And so it's like, you're telling yourself, when you repent for something that you don't understand how it happened, because you think they should just suck it up and be tough.
Right.
How did I hurt my kid? You're telling yourself it's okay to mess up in that moment. You're offering yourself grace even though you don't know how you've harmed that person. But when you tell your kid, well, you should just be thankful because I did so much for you, you're telling yourself it's not okay. In that moment, you're telling yourself it's not okay for me to mess up as a parent. You are putting yourself back under the law and back under shame.
Right.
But when you say, I'm sorry for something, I don't understand how I hurt you, and I think you're being too sensitive, you're telling yourself